Hello and welcome to the video. It is now that period, it is Christmas time. We are going into the Christmas months and the Nintendo Switch is now on its last legs when it comes to the console generation cycle. What this console has left behind is a legacy of amazing games on the Nintendo Switch. What I want to do in this video is I want to talk to you about 10 different games I feel you should pick up if you have got a Nintendo Switch this Christmas. The reason I want to do this is because, like I say, there's a huge library of Nintendo Switch games out there, and this is going to be the first video of a series of videos I make on the essential Nintendo Switch games you should pick up for your Nintendo Switch, especially if you're buying a Nintendo Switch this Christmas, which I still highly recommend, even if the Nintendo Switch 2 is supposed to be coming out next year. But yeah, here we go. So let's do it. 10 different Nintendo Switch games I think you should pick up for your Nintendo Switch. These are super essential for the Christmas period and just in general, like, get these games. So here we go. Number 1. So first of all, I want to talk about Splatoon 3. Splatoon 3 is one of the most essential games on Nintendo Switch, and the reason for that is because this is the quintessential multiplayer game on Nintendo Switch. Think of this as Nintendo's Call of Duty in a way. While it's not obviously like the same tone as Call of Duty, it's not a mature game, this is an online competitive shooting game. And with this game, what you do is you play games like Turf War, which is an online competitive shoot 'em up game mode where you basically get to spray ink everywhere. The team that spreads the most ink around the map becomes the winners. So that's just one game mode from this game. If you've ever played Splatoon, it's just super highly recommended. It's really fun. The matches are super short and quick and snappy. You can customize your character however you want. There's a training area so you can test out equipment and stuff like that, and the online ranked battles and stuff get really competitive. I enjoy it for that. It's a genuinely really addictive, fun game and a great time. So Splatoon 3, one of the best games on Nintendo Switch, one of the best multiplayer games of all time in my opinion, and easily one of the greatest online games ever made. Splatoon 3 is one of the best games on Nintendo Switch. Next up is a 3D platforming game known as Kirby and the Forgotten Land. Basically, it's the first proper true 3D Kirby game that's... I mean, there's never really been one apart from this game. And this, if you've ever played a game like Super Mario 3D World, this is basically that, but with Kirby. I really enjoyed this game. This game is a lot deeper than you might think it is. Kirby games have kind of been known as like the other game series to Mario. It's set in a like abandoned post-apocalyptic world, which is supposed to be Earth, I guess. But Kirby and the Forgotten Land, yeah, the story goes from being really happy and cheerful to being one of the coolest stories in all of Nintendo. It's the ending to this game. I can't explain it. It's crazy. Like, you should play it. Just play it because it does go on like a weird spiral of awesomeness. Gameplay is really fun, really easy to pick up and play. It's not the most difficult game in the world, but it's still really fun because it's such a breeze. The characters are all really fun. Obviously, it's 2-player as well, so if you want to play a game with your friend on couch co-op, you can always play that as well. The second player gets to play as Waddle Dee, so they don't quite get the full game, but they get to at least experience going through the levels with you. The bosses in this are really fun, everything up to the final boss, the actual final boss, because there is a game mode plus in this game, which really develops the game into something that is just an absolute trip. Kirby and the Forgotten Land is just crazy good, and I really enjoyed it. I think it's the best Kirby game ever made. At first I was playing it, I remember my first experience with this game was that I was like, it's just a platforming game with Kirby. But then the more I played it, the more I really started to love this game, and I actually really want to jump back into this because it's just fun. It's just a really fun game. The next game is Animal Crossing New Horizons. So this is probably the second most famous game on the Nintendo Switch in my opinion. I think after Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, I think this is probably up there as like the most popular game on the Nintendo Switch. If you don't know what Animal Crossing is, it's basically a life simulator game. You design your world to fit your purpose. The game takes place in this world where you live with like humanoid animals that have their own personalities and their own wants and likes and stuff like that, and you basically have to build your island, which over time grows and stuff like that. It starts off like as this really small island, and then eventually over time the more money and rent you pay, the world gets bigger and you can do more stuff in Animal Crossing New Horizons. There's been a lot of downloadable content added to this game, so there's a whole like other side story and stuff like that you can go and experience. Happy Home Designer is what it's called. And yeah, there's a lot to do in this game, and it's a daily game as well, so it kind of lasts a long time throughout days, as you have like a schedule to build and stuff like that. And I really enjoyed it for that. One of the key things about Animal Crossing is how addictive it is, and the way you get to learn your village and your island and the different characters and stuff like that, and the different days and holidays, how the seasons change the game and stuff like that. And yeah, it's just really fun. Like, if you really just want a game just to chill and be cozy to, this is perfect. This is the cozy game to get. Next up is, in my opinion, the best 2D platforming game on Nintendo Switch, and that is Super Mario Bros. Wonder. This is the best Mario 2D game there is. No joke, it is genuinely better than Super Mario World and Super Mario Bros. 3 in my opinion. This just has taken 2D Mario to the next level. This game is an absolute trip. It's crazy good when it comes to the visuals, the ideas, how creative it is, just the gameplay in general. Like, it feels really nice to play. There's zero flaw to this game in my opinion. I think this game will end up being on a lot of people's 10 best Nintendo Switch games list. Visually, it looks really nice. The music, really fun. I really like it. Every level has like its own little gimmick and changes the game completely, so it's never boring because you don't know what's around the corner. Like, when you play a new level, always end up with something completely new happening on screen, and it really takes you to another world. And that's kind of the whole point. That's why it's called Super Mario Bros. Wonder, because you're always wondering what's coming next. And that's what I liked about this game. It really makes you feel like you're dreaming, I suppose. Yeah, it's good. I really like this game. If you've ever played a 2D Mario, this is easily the best of them all. And it really highlights why the Mario game series is easily the most iconic and greatest game franchise of all time. This game is also great for being a multiplayer game as well. So playing with your friends, like, you can play up to 4 players and you all get to play as a different character. Comes chaos, obviously. You know, you're always relying on each other to save each other if you've ever like lost a life and stuff like that. And yeah, the story itself as well, while it's not like the best story ever made, it's definitely the best 2D Mario story there is. This is definitely a pickup. The next game is, in my opinion, one of the best Pokemon games ever made, and this game is Pokemon Legends Arceus. This game, as a Pokemon game, it's just different, and it's really good because it's an open area Pokemon game where the objective is to go out and hunt Pokemon. You go out hunting Pokemon with the idea that you are supposed to learn from Pokemon. You're supposed to find out how Pokemon live, check out the habitats, and see the world basically that this world kind of builds. And this game takes place in like a long distance time ago, kind of like an origin story to Pokemon of how trainers became friends with Pokemon. This is the first game in Pokemon in general where Pokemon actually attack humans. It's really cool because, as a person who has played Pokemon since I was a child, since Pokemon Red and Yellow and Blue were like released, this is a very different kind of Pokemon game just because it's so open to doing whatever you want, really. You can catch as many Pokemon as you like, you learn from them, you see the skills, you've got objectives, and you can basically fill out the Pokedex, and you basically create the Pokedex, I suppose. And that's kind of the whole point of this game, is it's supposed to be a safari of Pokemon for you to go out and find and check and create this kind of encyclopedia of Pokemon. I really loved it. I think this is a really, really good Pokemon game, if not one of the greatest Pokemon games ever made. There's boss battles in this which are very different. They're not like the traditional battles. And the story, while it's not the greatest Pokemon story, it's definitely an intriguing one, just because it's nice to see the world and how it develops on Pokemon lore and stuff like that, especially when it comes to like all the Arceus stuff, when it starts calling back to old Gen 4 Pokemon with Pokemon Diamond and Platinum. It's really cool to see just like a game that isn't constant battles and trainer fights and stuff like that and going to different cities. Like, this is kind of how I see Pokemon being in the future, especially with Pokemon Legends Zeta A coming out. This is a great sink your teeth into game just for that. It's basically an encyclopedia of Pokemon in game form. Before I carry on, I will just ask, please do remember to like and subscribe this video. It always helps out the channel. I'm trying to get to 1,500 subscribers by the end of this year. It really helps out the channel. I love seeing people subscribe and, you know, interacting with this channel. So please do. Anyway, next game. Now, the next game I'm going to show you, in my opinion, is the best game on Nintendo Switch, and that game is The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. I will mention Tears of the Kingdom, though, before I talk about this, because Tears of the Kingdom is an absolute 10 out of 10 game. It's not my favourite game ever made. It's not my favourite Legend of Zelda game, but I will talk about Tears of the Kingdom perhaps in another video in the future. But for now, let's talk about Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild is an iconic Legend of Zelda game. It's the Nintendo Switch game. It was a launch title for Nintendo Switch, and it's still, to this day, in my opinion, the best game on Nintendo Switch. It's awesome. This is just open world at its best. There's just something about this game that is just perfect to me. Like, the amount of gameplay is just right. The open world is perfect. The trials and all of the shrines are just really fun in this one. I like the Divine Beast trials for what they are. They're not obviously as good as the dungeons in like other Zelda games. I still like them for being like big puzzle box style dungeons. And yeah, I just love this game. It's so good. It's, in my opinion, possibly one of the best open world games ever made. This game gives you the freedom of just going out there and doing whatever you want. As soon as you beat the tutorial area, which takes about 1 or 2 hours, you are basically given the keys to the game to just say, here you go out there, go finish the game if you want to right now, you know, go fight the final boss with 3 hearts and no weapons if you really want to. But then also there's an open world out there, there's loads of different areas to explore. One of the most stunningly visual games ever made. The opening scene in this game where Link awakes from the Shrine of Resurrection and walks out into the world of Hyrule. In my opinion, that is one of the best visuals, one of the best openings in any Zelda game ever. In fact, any game ever. Legend of Zelda is just my favourite series in general. I love the Legend of Zelda series, and Breath of the Wild is at the top of the tip of the iceberg. Like I say, it's in my top 3 Zelda games. So Breath of the Wild, easily the best game on Nintendo Switch, and it was the game that made me buy a Nintendo Switch in the first place. So I really recommend this, and like I say, once you've beat Breath of the Wild, you can go straight to Tears of the Kingdom, and Tears of the Kingdom is just as good of an experience, and if not, even bigger, and there's so much more to do. After Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, which was the 3D Zelda game that came before Breath of the Wild, I feel the series was starting to get a bit stale with the linearity of it. What Nintendo did was they broke the mold of this game by making it open world. It was the first true open world Zelda game, and that's kind of what made this game so different. And it has actually divided fans a little bit, because there's a lot of people who really do love the old style traditional Zelda games and wish that would come back to Zelda. Obviously Nintendo have just released Echoes of Wisdom as well, which is another Zelda game, but that is a kind of different style Zelda game as it plays with Zelda as the main character. But that is a traditional Zelda game, whereas this is not. I think it's an awesome game in the terms that it's like a sandbox and you can just choose your story, I suppose. Next game is Bayonetta 3. Bayonetta 3 is one of those games that I feel when it first came out, there's a lot of people kind of trashing this game because of certain things that were happening outside of the gaming world, and some of the stuff like to do with actors not being paid properly and stuff like that, and you know, that whole kind of campaign that was going on for actors' rights and stuff. And this was one of those games that was affected by that. But Bayonetta 3, in my opinion, is still a great game. If you've actually played this game, you'll see what I mean. If you've ever played a Bayonetta game in general, the 3 games in the trilogy, they're just so fun. They are stupid and they are ridiculous, but they are just great times. Like, it's kind of like the way I kind of envision these games is like the Marvel movies. Marvel movies aren't masterpieces. Like, they are just great times. Like, they are literally just, like Martin Scorsese said, they are theme park rides, and this is exactly that. Bayonetta 3 is a hack and slash adventure game. There's a lot to explore and do, and there's trials to take on and stuff like that. And you know, the characters in this are somewhat divisive, I suppose. You play as another character as well as other Bayonettas from different dimensions, so it's kind of a strange one. This, like, it's promoted as Bayonetta 3, but it's kind of more like, it's kind of like a story that splits into lots of other stories as well. And I think that's kind of awesome, actually, because Bayonetta 3 is the most ambitious game in the trilogy. While I wouldn't choose this one first to play because this is the ending to the trilogy, I do think that this is still a game to pick up because just how fun it is. Like, even if you've not played Bayonetta 1 and 2, still really think that this is just in general a really good game to play. Bayonetta 3, really awesome game when it comes to adventure and action. Visually, it's nice. It's not the best looking game on Nintendo Switch, but it definitely feels like a game that has a lot of love and care in it. Like, visually, it's just crazy to look at, and the monsters that you can summon and stuff like that are all really awesome. The characters and boss fights and stuff like that are all interesting. There's a lot of high intensity action. I really like this game. I actually want to play through it again because I think I missed a lot playing through this. There's also like other game modes as well. Like you play as another character known as Jean, who is basically a 2D side-scrolling level game. Yeah, it's a bit of a twist, but I enjoyed it. I think they're probably the worst levels in the game, in my opinion. But yeah, I guess they're there. So Bayonetta 3, highly recommended. The next game I'm going to talk about is Fire Emblem Three Houses. Now this is a true game on Nintendo Switch. I did not expect this game to be as good as it is. I'd never played a Fire Emblem game before playing this one, so this was my first ever Fire Emblem game, and after this I can honestly say Fire Emblem is amazing. Fire Emblem is so good. Some of my favourite game series are Final Fantasy and Persona. I really enjoy the Persona games, but this is up there now. Like, I genuinely think Fire Emblem is awesome. Like the idea of this game is just, why did no one ever talk about this game anymore? Like, why does no one talk about Fire Emblem in general? I know that Fire Emblem is really popular in the east of the world, but over here in the west, like, Fire Emblem is a bit of a like niche game series. Unless you're a massive Nintendo fan, I feel like Fire Emblem is not really spoken about. Fire Emblem Three Houses is basically a life simulator JRPG strategy game, kind of like chess but with huge battles. And you basically get to live the life of this teacher who is teaching their students to become warriors. You get to choose one faction in this game, but one of the three houses, as it's called, three houses, and you choose one of those houses, your class basically. It's the house that you choose, almost like in Harry Potter, how you have the sorting houses. It's the same in here. This is kind of like Harry Potter in a way, I suppose. You get to walk around a cathedral, a monastery, and that is the school. That is where you teach your students how to become warriors. You test the warriors in strategy battles, which is like playing chess. One of the cool things about this game is there is a permadeath mode, and what I mean by that is as you progress the story, you'll grow to love and care for your characters, your class. However, with permadeath mode active, if one of your characters, one of your students dies in battle, they are gone. They are literally gone throughout the game. Like, that is a true death. Like, you lose them in your class. While you can turn this mode off and it does somewhat make it easier, permadeath is the real fun here. Permadeath is the real stress, is where you really have to start thinking outside the box. As the goal becomes, instead of fighting to win, you're fighting to survive, save your students every fight, every battle. And that is where the game really truly has its meat and potatoes. I think this game is just phenomenal. Like, once you get to the final parts of this game and to the massive battles with the big enemies, some of the amazing characters in it, like legit some of the best characters in Nintendo in general. While Byleth gets a lot of flack for being that one character from Super Smash Bros. Who basically ruined a lot of people's dreams when he was revealed. Byleth is the main character of this game, and I actually think Byleth is pretty cool. Yeah, I think Byleth as a character is cool. Fire Emblem Three Houses. Next up is Metroid Dread. So Metroid Dread is a 2D side-scrolling Metroidvania game, and it's in the name, Metroidvania, Metroid Dread. Metroid is the game for that genre. It's the one that everybody knows, and this is one of Nintendo's best series, in my opinion, one of the best franchises they have. They need to release more Metroid games, in my opinion. This is Metroid at its best. This is the most fluent Metroid game there is. Controls wise, this game plays like an absolute dream. At the start of the game, Samus loses all of her abilities, and then eventually you have to go throughout the whole game, go through like this huge giant dungeon of different labyrinths and corridors and doors to open and find keys for. Eventually you'll gain Samus's powers over time and you fight all these amazing bosses. This game is difficult, I won't deny it. It's a very difficult game. It's called Metroid Dread for a reason, because simply you will dread dying in this game, because there is a lot of enemies in this game that will one-hit kill you. And what I'm referring to is the Emmys. The Emmys are the kind of main feature in this game as the villains. You will know about them, because I remember playing through this game and the Emmys were just, they're kind of terrifying actually. The way they act is just like killer robots that are just out there to catch you and take you down. I mean, they are kind of terrifying. The noises they make and the fear that you experience when the music hits of them having detected you. Think about like Metal Gear Solid, when you get detected in Metal Gear Solid and how stressful that game becomes. That's exactly like this, except this is like 10 times harder. I generally think that Metroid Dread is just at points too hard, but it's almost like If you really love games like Dark Souls or any kind of Metroidvania, you'll know that that kind of genre in general is just designed to be difficult. It's one of those games where you have to really explore and find items to upgrade yourself just so that you can kind of take on the next area and the next bosses and stuff like that. And it really is a game that I feel like Nintendo really tried to have a bit of a crack at a genuine horror game. A horror game for Nintendo is very obscure, as I can't really tell you, apart from maybe Eternal Darkness, a real horror franchise that Nintendo have gone for. And I feel like Metroid itself has kind of been Nintendo's horror series. This has never been truly a horror game, but I feel like apart from maybe Metroid Fusion at parts, Metroid Dread is the scariest Metroid game. That's one of the reasons why, like I say, it's called Metroid Dread, because this game makes you feel dread. That's the point of it. It really makes you wondering what's coming next. What is the next boss fight? What's going to be the gimmick with the next Emmy? I really recommend this game. The final boss in this game is perfection. I love the final boss in this game. The final segment, like the whole third act, is just a absolute masterpiece when it comes to a final act. Get it. And last but not least is a game that I'm actually quite new to, but this is a really awesome game. I actually really am enjoying this game, and I haven't played the games after this yet, so I can't really talk about them, but I will talk about this one as I still think it's super essential. And this game is Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. This game is something else. I did not expect my first playthrough of this game to be as good as it was. I've heard people tell me that this series is one of the greatest series ever in Japanese RPGs. Xenoblade Chronicles is a series that I'm really into now, and it's purely because this game is just, it's so fun. The combat mechanics are great, the story is great, the characters is great. It's one of the few games where I actually know the open world, like I understand where I'm going, what I'm exploring for. All the different giant monsters you come across and stuff like that is just, I understand this game, and it's very rare for open world games for me to understand and know the world as it is, like kind of thing. And this might be one of the greatest games I've ever played. It's so fun from start to finish. It was gripping. The characters, the story at the start is obviously great when it builds up to how the game moves on and carries on and continues to build. Even the mid game isn't boring. Like usually sometimes games can get to the point where the mid part of the game becomes a bit of a slog and you're just like, oh, I want to get to the end now. No, you don't feel like that. I really love this game, and I'm going to continue playing it because, like I say, I'm quite new to Xenoblades. I haven't played 2, 3 or X, which I will be picking up as Xenoblade X when it comes out next year, and now it's been revealed. Shulk as a character and the Monado storyline is really cool. The whole storyline with like the Bayonetta and stuff like that is really interesting. The lore behind Xenoblade and the world building, characters like Rain, Sharla, Dunban's, like, you know, characters that I can just think of off my head. They're all really interesting. Every single character you come across is just really, really fun. They make the world feel alive, and there's lots of story, like side quests to play. And this game is really grindy. That's the only thing I do have to say about this game, is that it is grindy, because to progress in this game, you have to be higher level than the monster that you're fighting. It's kind of like the game kind of locks itself. While it's not impossible to beat monsters at a lower level, this game kind of locks itself to the point where you have to grind to win, basically. To beat your enemies that you're playing, you have to really grind your characters to the point where their levels are higher than the monsters you're fighting, including bosses and progressing the story. So that's one of the things I will say about this game, is how open and big it is. Like, the game will make you play it. Like, you can't just breeze through it with a story. This game will make you play everything, and that's kind of awesome. I suppose if you like big games, like I'm easily 70 to 80 hours into this game, so I'm really enjoying it, and I think it's easily one of the most essential games on Nintendo Switch. Like I've said before in other videos, I feel like the Xenoblade games may become rarities on Nintendo Switch. Very sought after games, especially now that the whole series will be on Nintendo Switch next year. So this is a collection that I think a lot of people will want to have on their Switch. Impressive, considering this was a Nintendo Wii game originally. It doesn't look like a Nintendo Wii game. If someone told me that this was not a remaster, I would believe them. Yeah, I would completely believe them that this isn't just a HD remaster of a Nintendo Wii game. Go play the series. That's what I'm doing, so I think you should too. That is 10 games I believe you should pick up this Christmas for your Nintendo Switch, or in general. Don't just pick them up for Christmas. Use this video anytime, really, I suppose. Pick them up for your Nintendo Switch. Get them. They are 10 of the most essential games there is. In my opinion, some of the best games I've experienced on Nintendo Switch. Really enjoy them. Some of the best times you could have in games, in my opinion. In fact, it's some of the greatest Nintendo games ever made right there that I've just talked to you about. Thanks for watching, guys. If you've liked this video, please do like, comment and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. I'm looking to get 1,500 subscribers by the end of this year. I'm starting to get a little bit doubtful that it's going to happen, so please do help. It really helps me out, and I really want to hit my goal before the end of the year. So, also, if you have any recommendations of essential games you should get on Nintendo Switch, please do tell me in the comments, and maybe I might think about putting them in a future video. As like I say, I'm trying to build a series of videos of Nintendo Switch essential games to pick up for your Nintendo Switch. So yeah, please let me know in the comments if there's any games you would like me to talk about. If you like this video though, please check out this video right here, which is 10 of the best games that you can buy for Nintendo Switch that came out this year. These are super essential if you are looking for games this Christmas. So there you go, that's a great list for you. And I shall see you for the next one. Have a good day, night, wherever you are. I don't know. Go do whatever you'll do next and watch whatever video you watch next. I will see you soon. Bye!